So hello and welcome to the new video. I started this season as an Incinerate build, as the two legendary powers were provided with the seasonal theme from the Iron Wolves, and at the beginning I was thinking, you know what, damage over time doesn't sound too good, but you know what, let me give it a try. And I was very surprised how Incinerate is actually performing very well. So yes, the two legendary powers that you need to start this build are actually provided from the Iron Wolf caches, I think, at the very beginning. And once you have those two powers, that the one is that splits your incinerate in two additional beams, and another one is makes a small explosion. You pretty much, the build is up and running and is fully function, and you can just start blasting all of the content. So up to now, I was able to do pretty much everything except the new, the 200 level bosses, and I would say probably at that type of a content, this build is not that great. I would say, because we have to stand on top of the boss. Because if you're wondering, yes, all those three beams that comes from the incinerate can hit one monster. So you're something like a caster melee type build, because ideally you want to stand on the top of the enemy to get the maximum amount of the damage. The damage is quite good, but I won't say if you're looking for some kind of build that can do the newest 200 level bosses or whatever they're gonna be called, like they're called properly, that's not the right build. But the build is absolutely great if you want to start a sorcerer. You're looking for something like, I want to farm my ball lightning or whatever the crap you want to farm at the end of the game. This build is actually quite good. So the problems that I see with these builds, I would say there's very few. Mainly comes down to the modifiers on the nightmare dungeons, because there's one that a rock follows you and slams the ground, and since you're standing still at the time, if you don't have your shield or you don't have a good amount of defense, that sometimes might chunk you very much. Another modifiers, I think it's called shade something, that like a ghostly thing follows you around and taps you and blinds you, and then you cannot be putting on this incinerate, just stops you from casting. So those two modifiers in the nightmare dungeons are a little bit annoying. Another thing that you have to sacrifice is one of your affixes on the couple of items, when you have to get mana per second. I think that's the proper wording, because if you get about 15 from you can get about from 2 or 3 items, depending how many reduced cost of skills do you have. Then you can just hold the right click and just spam incinerate all the time, because you're gonna be recovering more mana that you have to actually spending. So then you don't have any mana problems with the incinerate. But I don't think that's a big problem. Maybe the mana problem is the big problematic at the beginning of the campaign, when you're still progressing and you're gonna be constantly changing the gear. But once you get in the torment level, or and then you're gonna be finding some gear, then the problem just goes away, and then the build feels very good. So I would say like this: if you're looking for some kind of decent build that doesn't require too many unique items, too many legendary aspects, and you just want to level up a sorceress and then transition that sorceress into a blizzard ice spike build, definitely give a try to Incinerate. For up to now, I'm still farming my blizzard gear, but I'm still having a lot of fun with the Incinerate, because it's absolutely great. It has great defense, decent damage. I can do all of the bosses. The clearing is absolutely fantastic, because you just have good coverage on the map. So yeah, give it a try, 100% sure, because in my opinion, you won't regret it. So I will leave you a couple clips of the bosses so you can see how the build performs in the bossing scenario. So the enchantments I'm using, first one is the fireball. Whenever you kill someone, you get like a fireball explosion, right? That's pretty much, helps you out clearing the packs of monsters. This provides 0 value for the bossing. So sometimes what I would do while I'm doing some kind of boss, I would remove the fireball and use the incinerate one. So that's gonna give you like a hydra that's gonna be, doing like a much weaker version of incinerate. And the second one I'm using teleport. And let me pull up. The teleport is gonna, change your evade skill into a teleport. If you get yourself a boot with 3 maximum charges to evade, then you're gonna have on, maybe 3 or 2, whatever the number is that you're gonna have. That's gonna give you more chances, more teleports. So not only you would have the teleport on your skill bar, then you have it on your space bar or whatever button do you have. So the skill tree is very simple. Firstly, you have to put 2 points in any basic skill, and you can do whatever you want. You can do fireball, arc clash, whatever you want. You literally need to put 2 points just to move on to the next skill. So the next skill is you do 5 incinerate, 1. By far, this is way better than this one. The greater incinerator, in my opinion, is a waste of point. Destructive one is by far better. You're getting a damage reduction. That's absolutely great. This makes the build very, very tanky, especially on the bosses scenario. Then fireball, that's gonna be just 1 point. That's your first enchantment. Then you have extra damage. And about those 2 points over here, I know this point is pretty much a waste. But the greater fireball, I would have to test it out if it works well with the build or not. So just in case, you have 2 flexible points over here. Then you move on to the defensive skills. Flame shield with the heal. Pretty much you need the flame shield just to get out sometimes out of CC, shenanigans that the monster is gonna be throwing at you. Teleport with the damage reduction, you need a teleport because you want to move very quickly around your rift, nightmare dungeons, whatever you're doing. Glass cannon, extra damage, 1 point in the ice armor because you just need extra shield. And then you do ice nova with the mystic frost nova because you just want to get the vulnerable stats somehow. That's the only way to get it on this build. So you're gonna get like extra damage on the bosses and elites. Then you go conjuring. Whenever you're spending mana, you're getting damage reduction since you're not gonna be channeling incinerate all the time. You pretty much this buff is gonna be automatically showing up quite often. Protection, you use defensive skill, you get a free barrier on top of your barriers, so that's great. This one, inner flame, you get a bit more extra damage as long as you're healthy. So it even says in the description that's 80% of your life. You can see that this red ring around your health globe, it means you're healthy. Then moving on, you go to the Inferno with the pulling over here. You could respect, for example, from the fireball and get yourself this point as well. This will give you while the Inferno is active, your Incinerate doesn't cost mana. Since I don't need the mana, the free skills, actually it would be a waste of point for me. Now the 1 point over here, that's some mana regen after kill. Then this is reduce the cost of your incinerate and gives you a little bit extra damage and doubles while you're standing, since you're gonna be standing pretty much all the time because that's how incinerate works. So yeah, extra damage. Those points I would say are just okay, that they are not that great. They do provide some life regen, but you could actually respect that. That's those 3 points are are here just to give you a little bit recovery. And lastly, you have a combustion because it gives you extra damage pretty much. This is how my Paragon level looks like. Just please remember that all of my glyphs are actually at the minimum level 15. That's why they are a bit larger. And generally speaking, my Paragons are pretty much the same if you would take a peek on someone's firewall build. As they say that they share very similar things because they are still a burning build. So firstly you go over here, you do elementalist, and you have to stack int as much as you can in this area. Then I move over here. Was the node? Yeah, Burning Instinct. You put crit damage over here, and then you stack in dexterity as much as you can over here. Then what I will do, I will go over here. You take pyromancy, and you stack in willpower as much as you can. This will just give you a little bit more extra damage while you're doing the incinerate. You're gonna see like a stacking buff over here. So that will be 1, 2, 3. Then I will go number 4 over here, and that's enchantment mastery over here. And then you put reinforce, and then you have to get as much as willpower as you can in this zone. Then the next one I will go is over here. You do tactician, and that's frigid fates over here, and you're actually picking up the legendary node. Then you move over here. This is control. You want to stack as much as dexterity, and the board is conduit. Then the last board is static surge, and you want to put exploit over here, and you want to just get as much as dexterity. I will link in the description like some kind of Diablo 4 builder, just in case I missed something, or you can take a peek on the Paragon board. So let's start this section with the gear. So helmet, you're looking for some kind of like int, life, and mana per second. I would say mana per second is like the top priority on the helmet. And then you want to craft yourself like maximum life, maybe total armor, depends what do you're missing. And then you want to get yourself a chance to immobilize. And then you're gonna be crafting your legendary power. Pretty much you can do whatever you want. That you take the less damage from the crowd control enemies. It's not like you have to have it. It's just nice to have, because I'm immobilizing the enemies quite often, and I would say that's like crowd control effect. So whenever that monster hits me, I get a little bit less damage from them. And then you just do a ruby socket for the extra life. Chest, you pretty much you're gonna be following the same thing. Like you're gonna be doing mana, life, int, and then you wanna craft yourself maximum life, and then you wanna get this a chance to immobilize. And then you do. I have the legendary power for the extra ice nova. You don't have to have it. You can do something else if you want. I just like to have 2 extra ice novas. And then you're doing sockets and ruby for the extra life. You could technically use the pull chest, and that's gonna give you maybe a little bit more extra damage. But in my opinion, I would rather just stick with the normal legendary item, because you need that mana per second. Otherwise, you might not have enough mana recovery just like hold and incinerate and just spam it. So unless you get the mana source from something else, then you could actually get the pull chest, just get those monsters nicely grouped together. So you have some options over here. So moving on, gloves. For the gloves, I would say top priority is incinerate, then life, and then whatever else you can get. I had already on my gloves the damage over time. I'm like, yeah, why not? That's great. And I just crafted myself some fire damage over time, changed to immobilize, and I have the incinerate legendary power when it gives it some extra damage. And whenever you're like casting incinerate, there's like a small explosion. I can demonstrate this. So that was like the passive explosion. So that really helps you out with the clearing, like the trashy mobs. So pants that I'm using again, it's just life, int, and I got myself some extra resistance because I was missing to get my cap. And then you just crafted myself the total armor and chance to immobilize, and I have the stacking, the legendary power that stacks armor, whenever you like channeling. And actually incinerate stacks this armor passive very quickly. Like if you look over here, it just stacks it very, very quickly. So I would say it's absolutely great. And then I did just 2 sockets just to get myself a ruby for some extra life. So the boot's gonna be, in my opinion, one of the hardest item to get, because there's a lot of stats that you can get on your boots, and they are nice because you can get int, life, movement, speed, and you can get on your boots the mana per second as well. And not only that, you want to craft yourself the movement speed, and you would like to have craft yourself the chance to immobilize. In this situation I wasn't lucky enough, so I'm stuck with a stun. And on top of that, the base boots that you want to have is like something like this one, plus 3 maximum evade charges, because that's gonna give you more charges to your teleport, since the evade is in my case is a teleport. So yeah, the boot's gonna be kinda tricky to get. And then you're gonna be imprinting the power, you know, that you can daze enemies, and daze enemies to increase the damage. You're gonna see that you know, some stars sometimes like floating around the enemy, and you're just gonna be dealing some extra damage to them. So on the amulet slot, you have like bunch of stats that you're looking for, like, you know, whatever combination you're gonna get. I was lucky enough that I already had a 2-star amulet, so the only one modifier that I had to reroll. So, and then I crafted myself the teleport cooldown. Not necessarily I wanted teleport the cooldown. I wanted like more of a the generic movement speed, but I'm stuck with the teleport, so I'm like, why not? It's not such a bad thing. And then I have fire damage over time, and this I have like Incinerate splits in the 3 beams, and he gets nice increased damage, and like the modifier. And then you just put a skull into amulet just to get a little bit more armor. So with the rings I will give you a couple choices, because there is some flexibility over here. So firstly, you can use 2 like a legendary rings, and you're looking for like a bunch of damages on your ring, and then you're crafting like fire damage over time and the resource generation. And then I have an imprint power, like whenever I have a buyer I do extra damage. Skull for the armor, the ring is like, you know, the second one is the same thing, bunch of damages, and I have imprinted the power when I do extra damage. You could actually swap this, and there's like, you know, they do more damage to frozen or the enemies that are under the crowd control effect, right? Yeah, I think it goes up to 35, so you can play around. Now, other possibility, you could use Talarasha. Is the Talarasha a good ring? Yeah, it is like is the Talarasha good for this build? I would say it really depends, because you have to remember, to get the full benefit of Talarasha you have to do cold, lightning and fire damage. Obviously the fire damage is Incinerate, the lightning damage is teleport, so now you have to get yourself some kind of cold damage. There's a nice trick that you can apply, I mean, the new crafting option on your weapon in this situation. On my focus, on my offhand, I have a chance to deal cold damage. So you could actually automate in this situation the Talarasha ring, and you know, if you have it and you have some kind of good roll, sure, you can use it. But in my opinion, Talarasha when it comes to damage to like a normal legendary powers are very equal, and you don't have to play around, such as, you know, hit people, like hit something with the teleport, then get a proc for the cold damage, and then, you know, start incinerating, and then you have to keep that buffs from the Talarasha. I would just say, like, you know, that normal legendary item, it's by far, it's like way better. You don't have to like play around with the stacking the buffs. And the last ring that I'm using, because I was lucky enough to drop it from, I think, from Andariel, is the Exophos. It gives you like another explosion whenever you get your lucky hit chance. So, you know, it gives you like bunch of stats, cooldowns, and so on. So I would say between those 4 rings, you can just pick whatever you want. All of those rings are good. So for my focus that I'm using, I was mainly trying to get, like, you know, some int, maximum life, cooldown recovery. Then I crafted for myself the fire damage over time, and then I crafted myself the chance to deal cold damage, because in the couple levels behind I was using the Talarasha ring, so I needed that cold damage. But probably you could swap that cold damage to anything else. Then I did myself the the legendary power when you deal increased damage to burning enemies, and like whenever the enemies are below 50% you get some extra damage pretty much, and then you just putting the damage over time jewel inside your focus. Right, and so for my wand I found this one that's synergized with the Incinerate, and on top of that I found it with like a star for the reduced mana cost. Now, is this the best one that you can have for this build? I would say no, because it only gives you like +4 level of Incinerate. It gives you some lucky chance, some damage, and you get like a crappy passive that you shoot out like the small like fireballs or whatever you want to call it, and you can demonstrate that. So those fireballs don't do too much damage. They add a little bit, but it's not much, I would say. But if you have it, you can. But if you don't have it, a rare wand would be good enough. The one thing that I would like to test out, maybe like swapping from this wand and losing one of the legendary powers, like one of the offensive ones. Maybe I would lose the barrier and I would go like a 200 staff. Maybe this way with the 200 staff I would get a little bit more damage, because you could master craft it, master work it and so on. So that's something that I need to test out yet, because I'm not sure if like having a wand and a focus is better, or having a 200 one, 200 staff, because I didn't find any good 200 staff yet. So here is something that you should be aware, that when you have those 3 beams, all of those 3 beams can hit actually one target, and that's the maximum amount of damage that you can do to any kind of enemy. I'm gonna demonstrate this on a training dummy. Like if I just hit him one time, you can see the number is about like 200 or something, right? But if I just hold it and all of the 3 beams start hitting, I'm getting close to like a 1 mil. So all of the 3 Incinerate beams can hit the one enemy, and you can get the most amount of damage. So pretty much you're like I would say like a melee sword type of build, because you have to be very close to to hit all of the 3 beams, as you can see. Because if I go a little bit farther away, I think I'm still hitting the 3 enemies, and at this point, yeah, I'm just hitting with the 1 beam. So you have to be relatively close to an enemy just to apply the 3 Incinerate beams to a target to get the most amount of damage that you can get. So at this point of the video, I would say thank you for watching. I hope you're gonna have a great time burning the enemies just like I'm having. I will see you later.